I think, number one, it's shocking to see so many murders and homicides around a single defendant,
Right.
Especially when she is related to and knows everybody that's involved. And then you have this extreme spiritual aspect that you see in other famous cases like the Charles Manson case. And, one of the questions is, will she come forward and actually give a confession? And you can look at some of these other cult-like figures and, ask yourself, did they do that? And, in the Charles Manson case, the followers eventually did. They eventually came forward and they apologized and they accepted responsibility for what they did. But it took decades. And if Lori Vallow is ever going to come forward and actually accept responsibility for what she did, it's probably not going to be for decades.
One more question, too, not related to this case, but the Brian Kohberger case, up in Idaho as well. He hasn't said anything to the victims' families, his sentencing, obviously, this week as well. And another interview, I think that might come in the future, but people really want to know, was there a motive in the killings of those 4 college students? And we haven't heard anything.
We haven't heard anything yet, but if history has taught us anything, a lot of these murders and sociopaths do this for attention. And, this person, Brian Kohberger, felt like he was smarter than the system. He was getting a master's degree in criminology, and he thought that he knew all of the detectives' tricks and secrets on how to discover who he was, and he wasn't. And, when he was arrested, I think he was actually surprised that they actually caught him. And, yesterday during the sentencing, the judge talked about this, and he said, I'm asking the media not to contact the defendant in this case. Do not give him what he wants, because he wants a Netflix series. He wants a documentary.
Books written about him.
Exactly.
He wants...
Helter Skelter.
Absolutely. Wow.
Okay, so as far as how things are going to unfold now when we watch tomorrow in the courtroom, just kind of give us the chronology of how... Will there be victim impact statements, for example?
Yeah, tomorrow should be all about the victims. I mean, we all know what the final result is going to be. Judge Boreski is going to give consecutive life sentences. And the reason why he really has to do that is to show the community and show the victims' families that each victim that was murdered matters. Because if you run it concurrently, you're not really giving any attention to the individual murders. And the only way that a victim's family is going to feel like they've gotten justice is to have a consecutive sentence. But just like with Brian Kohberger's sentencing hearing yesterday, the people that really stole the show were the victims' families. Their victim statements were so heartfelt and credible, and I would expect no less from the victims in this case and the victims' families coming forward, telling everybody how this has affected them, how it's changed their lives, and hopefully, with a positive message for the future as well.
Well, we certainly heard that yesterday in the courtroom in Idaho. By the way, coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to be checking in live with a reporter who was in that courtroom all day long yesterday as all of that was unfolding. But since we're kind of transitioning to the Kohberger case for just a minute, how crucial was the blood on the sheath? In that case, if they didn't have that, because my understanding is they've never found the actual murder weapon, the actual knife. How crucial was that to actually getting the case to where it was?
Well, it was imperative. DNA, it tells us really a fingerprint in time. It doesn't tell us when something happened. For instance, if you touch this table, you'll have some oil. It's called touch DNA that goes on this table, and it can be later tested, and it can positively identify you as being there, but it doesn't say when or how it got there. But in this case, there was no explanation of why, or no innocent explanation of how that blood got there. And because of that, it really ruled out every other suspect that they were looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we'll watch as that story continues to unfold, and then what with Lori Vallow, Daybell in court tomorrow. I guess at this point, we literally can continue to call it the final chapter of this saga.
Yeah.
But what would you put the odds? I don't know if you're an odds maker kind of guy here, but what would you put the odds that eventually they will start looking into the death of Joseph Ryan? This is the one possible remaining case out there.
I think that if Lori Vallow indicates in any way whatsoever that she committed any of the murders, I would say that it's very likely that that case is going to be reopened. But if she doesn't, I don't think that the county attorney has enough evidence to go forward. Otherwise, I think we would have heard something already.
And would it have made any difference, do you think, in this case? Because I know you watched it so closely from the opening gavel to the very end with the verdict. If she had not made the what some people considered kind of foolish decision to act as her own attorney, but actually brought in smart legal counsel, I know she was getting some advice. Would that have really made a difference?
Absolutely. You know, this case, just like the Charles Manson case, was about somebody directing others to commit the crimes for them. So you had really a psychopathic brother, Alex, who committed at least the first two murders in Maricopa County. And, you know, what she should have done was just blame him for everything and just tell the prosecutor, prove that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But she didn't do that. And that would have been the best defense, I think, in a case like that.
Okay, well, we're up against a break already, although we could do a whole hour
We
with
really
Josh,
could. Josh,
couldn't
you're
we?
amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
really,
your insight.
Your perspective is great. By the way, Josh, former federal prosecutor for 14 years now in criminal defense, and really a just great perspective on all of this. So, Josh, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Josh.